Embracing gratitude, finding joy in everyday moments. Gratitude is a choice, not a circumstance. 2. Recognizing blessings in disguise shifts your perspective. The little things are the big things. Gratitude turns survival into celebration. Expressing gratitude builds deeper connections. Your attention determines your appreciation. Gratitude disrupts negative thought patterns. 8. A grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. Consistent gratitude transforms seasons of waiting. 10. Gratitude aligns you with abundance. 11. Joy flows from thankful reflection. Living with gratitude is a revolutionary act in a complaining world. Introduction. In a world addicted to speed, comparison, and achievement, we often miss the sacred moments tucked inside the ordinary. We chase after promotions, praise, and possessions, thinking joy lies just beyond the next accomplishment. But how many milestones have we crossed only to find ourselves weary, unsatisfied, and still searching? We scroll endlessly, consume endlessly, and yet feel empty. Why? Because we've traded one of life's most powerful principles, gratitude, for the illusion that happiness comes from more, faster, and louder. Gratitude is not an outdated virtue reserved for Thanksgiving dinner or polite thank you notes. It is a daily spiritual discipline. It is a posture of the heart that turns the mundane into sacred. It is the lens that reveals what is already beautiful but hidden under our complaints. The most joyful people are not those with perfect lives, but those who train their eyes to see beauty in imperfection. When we learn to really see the gifts in our now, the weight of our anxieties begins to lift. This speech is not about surface-level gratitude. This is not about just saying thank you when things go right. This is about cultivating a daily, grounded, resilient gratitude that shifts your entire way of living. It's about finding the fingerprints of goodness even in the fog of confusion. It's about discovering that joy was never missing, it was simply buried beneath the noise. Gratitude is not just something we do, it is something we become. It is a transformation of our inner life that changes how we walk through every season. So today, I invite you to lean in, to listen not just with your ears, but with your soul, because what you're about to hear might just realign your heart, awaken a new lens, and show you that your greatest breakthroughs won't always come from what changes around you, but from what shifts within you. Gratitude is a choice, not a circumstance. Gratitude is often mistaken as a feeling that happens when everything is going well. We think we'll be grateful when we get the promotion, when our relationships are peaceful, when our health improves, when life finally settles into alignment. But that's the great illusion. The truth is, gratitude is not the product of circumstances. It is the architect of your perspective. It is not born out of everything going right. It is powerful because it can thrive even when things go wrong. Let me take you on a journey, an inner one. Imagine a man who has lost his job, received devastating health news, and feels like life has shut every door. Most would say he has every right to be bitter, angry, or depressed. And maybe, yes, he does. But what if in the middle of his suffering, he noticed the kindness of a stranger? What if he chose to remember the resilience that kept him going in the past? What if with every breath, he said, "This breath is still a gift"? That is the power of choosing gratitude. That is the defiant joy that grows not in abundance, but in adversity. Our lives are filled with moments where we can either rehearse our problems or recognize our blessings. Both are real, but what we rehearse becomes our reality. Gratitude doesn't deny pain. It just refuses to make pain the whole story. You see, gratitude says, yes, life is hard, but this morning I woke up. I have another shot. The sky still stretches above me and someone loves me. Gratitude allows us to acknowledge pain without being consumed by it. The human brain has what psychologists call a negativity bias. It means our minds naturally cling to what's wrong more than what's right. One criticism weighs heavier than 10 compliments. One delay in our plans can eclipse months of progress. But the beauty is this: you can rewire your brain. You can train it daily to seek the good, to savor, not just consume, to notice, not just react. Every time you pause to say, "I'm thankful," even for something small, you are building a new neural pathway. You are becoming more alive. We live in an age where it's fashionable to complain. It's popular to point out flaws, to post rants, to echo outrage. But what if you became unfashionable in the best way? What if you stood out by being thankful in a world of grumbling? What if you became a carrier of joy instead of a sponge for bitterness? You don't need your life to change before you embrace gratitude. Gratitude is the key that unlocks joy right where you are. And here's the beauty. The more you practice gratitude, the more your perspective shifts. Suddenly, your morning coffee is not just a drink. It's warmth, it's comfort, it's aroma. The conversation with your friend isn't just catching up. It's connection, it's healing, it's presence. The ability to walk, to speak, to breathe. These are not entitlements. They are miracles disguised as routine. Gratitude slows you down, and in the slowing, it deepens your living. You don't just pass through the day, you receive the day. You don't just endure the people around you, you honor them. You stop chasing happiness like a distant prize, and instead you start hosting joy right where you are. Because here's a secret, you will never reach the perfect moment where everything aligns, but you can make this moment sacred if you choose to see its hidden gifts. So don't wait for the storm to pass before you choose gratitude. Don't wait for everything to be fixed before you praise. The ones who experience the deepest joy are not the ones with the least problems, but the ones with the most powerful perspective. And that begins when you stop letting circumstances dictate your thankfulness, and instead you let gratitude redefine your circumstances. Expand it, recognizing blessings in disguise, shifts your perspective. Life often hands us packages wrapped in pain, disappointment, or confusion, and we're quick to reject them. But what if some of those moments you called your worst were actually hidden blessings in disguise? What if the very thing you tried to pray away was the very thing preparing you for the life you were born to live? The truth is, many of God's greatest gifts come wrapped in discomfort. And unless we look deeper, we'll miss the miracle buried in the mess. Think back to a time when you didn't get what you wanted. Maybe it was a job you desperately needed, a relationship you were begging God to save, or an opportunity that slipped through your hands like sand. In the moment, it felt like failure. You wept, you questioned, you wondered if heaven had gone silent. But months later, maybe even years later, you looked back and realized that what you once saw as rejection was actually redirection. That job would have kept you stuck. That relationship would have broken your spirit. That opportunity wasn't a door. It was a trap. And in the silence of no, God was whispering, I have something better. That's the power of gratitude. It gives your eyes to see backward with purpose and forward with hope. Gratitude doesn't require you to love the pain, but it teaches you to learn from it. It helps you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? It invites you to lean into the moment and trust that heaven hasn't abandoned you. It's preparing you. Remember this. Some of the most beautiful flowers only bloom after the fiercest storms. Some of the strongest trees only grow where the soil was once shaken. In the same way, your character is forged in the fires you tried to run from. But gratitude says, even this will serve me. Gratitude shifts your lens from sorrow to strength. It teaches you that blessings don't always wear halos. Sometimes they wear scars. And it's in that shift that everything begins to change. You stop living like a victim of your past and start living as a vessel of wisdom. You stop cursing the delay and start praising the development. You stop mourning the door that closed and start celebrating the one that's opening, even if you can't see it yet. Gratitude doesn't always feel natural, but it is always powerful. It allows you to reclaim the narrative of your life and say what was meant to break me actually built me. When you begin to recognize that some of life's darkest nights were training you to shine, you stop fearing the unknown and start trusting the unseen. Because in the end, it's not just about finding blessings, it's about becoming the kind of person who sees them even when they're hidden. 3, expand it. The little things are the big things. We're taught to chase the grand moments, the spotlight, the applause, the breakthroughs that shake the ground beneath our feet. But what if I told you that life isn't made in the mountain peaks? It's crafted in the quiet, the overlooked, the in-between. Because the truth is, the little things, those fleeting, tender, seemingly insignificant moments, are the big things. Gratitude opens your eyes to what's been there all along. That moment when sunlight pours through your window and warms your skin, that deep breath after a long day, that text from a friend that simply says, I'm thinking of you. Those aren't fillers in the script of your life. They are the sacred scenes. But if you're only looking for fireworks, you'll miss the flickering candles that light your path daily. We live in a generation obsessed with going viral, being noticed, getting more. But the soul doesn't thrive on noise. It thrives on presence. And presence is found in the ordinary. You see, when your heart is tuned to gratitude, the routine becomes radiant. Washing dishes becomes a chance to reflect. Sitting with your family becomes a celebration. A morning walk becomes an invitation to communion with the divine. The world hasn't changed. You have. Think about the rhythm of a heartbeat. It's small, subtle, barely noticeable. Yet without it, everything stops. In the same way, the small moments in life carry the pulse of your joy. Gratitude trains you to honor the ordinary, to not rush past the aroma of your coffee, the laughter of a child, the comfort of your favorite sweater, or the silence that fills a room with peace. Here's a powerful truth. When you learn to cherish the small things, you'll never run out of reasons to be grateful, because they're everywhere. Your day is overflowing with gifts, but without gratitude, your eyes stay blind. Gratitude is not about what's added to your life. It's about what's always been there that you finally start to see. Joy doesn't always announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it whispers through a shared glance, a warm hug, or a familiar song that plays when you need it most. But only a grateful heart will recognize those whispers. Only a thankful soul will say, "This moment is enough." So don't wait for the promotion, the wedding, the healing, the next chapter before you decide to celebrate. The beauty of life is not postponed. It's happening right now in the middle of your normal, messy, sacred daily routine. Every moment is a miracle dressed in simplicity. And when you truly understand this, you begin to live fully. You stop skipping scenes in your own story and start soaking them in, because you realize the little things were never little at all. They were the heartbeat of joy you were too busy to hear. Expanded. Gratitude turns survival into celebration. There's a hidden strength in the person who's still standing after the storm. Maybe they didn't get everything they wanted. Maybe they carry wounds that still ache. Maybe they're tired, but they're here, still breathing, still moving, still showing up. And that alone is worthy of celebration. But most of us miss it. We're so focused on the finish line that we forget to honor the fight. We survive seasons of depression, betrayal, financial struggle, inner chaos, and spiritual drought. And instead of pausing to acknowledge the victory of making it through, we move the goalpost and chase the next milestone. Gratitude disrupts that cycle. It says, no, wait, look how far you've come. Gratitude turns the spotlight away from what you lack and shines it on what you endured. You don't need to wait until life is perfect to throw a celebration. Sometimes you need to celebrate the fact that you didn't quit, that even when the weight was unbearable, you still carried it, that even when tears soaked your pillow at night, you still got up the next morning. Gratitude looks at your scars and says, you made it. Gratitude allows you to rejoice in survival, because survival is proof of resilience. Think of the people who dance even in the rain, who sing even in the valley, who smile though they carry sorrow. These are not people without pain. They are people who chose gratitude in spite of it. They understand that celebration is not just for the mountaintop moments. It's a weapon of the soul in the middle of the wilderness. When you pause to say, I'm thankful, even while things are hard, you're not ignoring the struggle. You're just refusing to let it define you. This is where gratitude becomes revolutionary, because it doesn't just change how you see your present, it reshapes how you interpret your past. You begin to realize that the darkest moments taught you the deepest truths, that the silence taught you how to listen, that the heartbreak taught you how to feel, that the detour led you to something better than what you were chasing. Survival becomes sacred when you choose to see the hand of grace woven through it all. So don't just wait to celebrate when the battle is over. Celebrate because you're still in the fight. Celebrate because you didn't give up. Celebrate because each breath is evidence that purpose still runs through your veins. Gratitude elevates your journey. It lifts your head. It redefines the definition of winning. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't that everything turned out the way you wanted. Sometimes it's that you didn't lose yourself along the way. And that, my friend, is not just survival. That is triumph. That is transformation. That is celebration. And gratitude is the sound that rises from the ashes and sings, I'm still here, expanded. Expressing gratitude builds deeper connections. We all crave connection, real, deep, soul-level connection. Not the shallow nods of passing conversations, not the likes on social media, but the kind of relationships where we are seen, heard, and valued. And here's the key. Gratitude is the language that unlocks that level of connection. It's not just a feeling, it's an expression. Gratitude held in your heart is powerful, but gratitude spoken aloud can change someone's life. So many people are walking around with silent pain, wondering if they matter. And sometimes all it takes is a few sincere words to remind them, I see you, I appreciate you. You're not invisible. We often assume people know they're valued, but they don't. We assume they feel our love, but they might not. That's why expressing gratitude isn't optional. It's urgent. It's sacred. Think about the last time someone thanked you, not just in passing, but with genuine sincerity. Maybe they looked you in the eye. Maybe they paused and said, I just want you to know how much I appreciate what you did. That moment stuck with you, didn't it? It touched something deeper than just your ears. It reached your soul. That's the power of gratitude when it's given away. It becomes a bridge between hearts. In a world full of criticism, cynicism, and coldness, gratitude is warmth. It softens the edges. It repairs what's been fractured. When you say thank you to your spouse, your parents, your coworkers, your friends, not just for grand gestures, but for the little daily acts, you begin to sow seeds of trust, love, and honor. And those seeds grow into relationships that thrive, not just survive. Gratitude spoken also brings healing. It disarms conflict. It replaces resentment with reconciliation. When you choose to thank someone instead of accuse them, when you point out what they're doing right instead of magnifying what they're doing wrong, you shift the atmosphere. Homes, teams, churches, and friendships can all be transformed by one simple habit, expressed gratitude. And here's something beautiful. When you regularly express gratitude, it changes you too. You become more attentive, more compassionate, more open. Your heart enlarges. Your capacity for connection deepens. Gratitude makes you present. It anchors you in the moment with others and says, I'm not just here, I value you. If you want deeper love, stronger bonds, lasting friendships, start expressing what you often leave unspoken. Write the note, say the words, send the message, make the call. Don't let your gratitude die in silence. Because when you speak it, you don't just bless others, you bless yourself. You create a legacy of love. And in a world starving for kindness, your gratitude might be the nourishment someone needs today. Give it freely. Speak it boldly. Watch how it brings hearts closer, one sincere thank you at a time. 6. Expanded. Your attention determines your appreciation. Your life is shaped by what you focus on. Every day, your attention is pulled in 100 directions. News headlines, social media updates, to-do lists, unfinished conversations, inner worries. And in the whirlwind of it all, you start missing the very things that make your life meaningful. But here's a timeless truth. What you give your attention to grows, and what you ignore fades. Gratitude is born from deliberate attention. It's not that blessings don't exist in your life. It's that you may have stopped noticing them. The laughter of your children has become background noise. The roof over your head feels expected. The ability to walk, to think, to breathe, you no longer even pause to acknowledge. That's not because you're ungrateful. It's because your attention has been hijacked by problems, pressures, and distractions. And wherever your attention goes, your appreciation either deepens or dries up. Gratitude is not passive. It's intentional. It's the act of redirecting your attention to what is good, even when life is not perfect. You have to train your mind to notice the things you've been walking past, to pause long enough to see the beauty in a sunrise, to feel the comfort in a familiar voice, to say, this moment matters. I won't miss it. When you pay attention, appreciation awakens. And when appreciation awakens, joy flows in. Have you ever met someone who radiates peace even in difficulty? It's not because their life is easier, it's because their focus is different. While others fixate on what's lacking, they choose to see what's present. While others complain about delays, they give thanks for the journey. While others are consumed with what's next, they savor what's now. That's the power of attention aligned with gratitude. This also applies to your relationships. The more you focus on someone's flaws, the harder it becomes to love them. But when you choose to notice their sacrifices, their efforts, their kindness, your appreciation grows. The problem is never that people stop being worthy of love. The problem is often that we stop paying attention to what made them lovable in the first place. And that's why relationships fail, not from lack of love, but from lack of attentive gratitude. Your attention is your greatest currency. Spend it wisely. If you give it all to chaos, you'll lose peace. If you give it all to fear, you'll lose hope. But if you give it to beauty, to kindness, to what's still good, you'll cultivate joy. The more you notice, the more you appreciate. And the more you appreciate, the more your world transforms. Not because it changed, but because you did. So today, begin again. Redirect your gaze. Look again at the life you've been given. You'll find treasures in the places you've stopped looking if you simply pay attention. Expand it. Gratitude disrupts negative thought patterns. The battle most people are fighting is invisible. It's not on a battlefield with swords and fire. It's in the silence of their own minds. It's the inner war of thoughts that whisper, "You're not enough, you failed again, nothing ever changes." If we're honest, we've all been there, stuck in a loop of negativity, fear, and discouragement that runs on repeat. But what if there was a way to interrupt that loop? To hijack that cycle and inject light into the darkness? That's what gratitude does. It disrupts the pattern. It breaks the chain. Negativity is subtle. It builds slowly. One bad moment, one harsh word, one delay in your plans, and suddenly your whole day feels heavy. Left unchecked, those thoughts become beliefs, and those beliefs become lenses. Before long, you're not just having a bad day, you're living with a negative worldview. That's when bitterness settles in. That's when hope begins to die. But here's the truth. Your thoughts are not dictators. They're suggestions, and you have the power to choose a different voice. Gratitude is that different voice. It stands up in the middle of the storm and says, "Yes, it's hard, but I still have breath. I still have purpose. I'm still standing." It speaks truth to the lies. It reminds you of what's still working, what's still beautiful, what's still worth celebrating. Gratitude doesn't deny the pain, but it refuses to give pain the final word. There's a neurological reason this works. Your brain can't fully focus on fear and thankfulness at the same time. They are competing neural pathways. When you intentionally pause to name what you're thankful for, no matter how small, you begin to rewire your mind. You force it to shift from threat to trust, from panic to peace, from spiraling to centering. Try this the next time. Anxiety creeps in. Stop and name 5 things you're grateful for. Say them out loud. Write them down. Don't just think them, feel them. Let your heart catch up with your head. You'll be amazed at how your breathing slows, how your thoughts clear, how your hope begins to rise again. That's not just psychology. That's spiritual warfare. That's taking back control from the chaos and saying, "I will not be consumed." Gratitude becomes your weapon in the war of the mind. It breaks the pattern. It throws a wrench into the gears of negativity and says, "Not today." And the more you practice it, the stronger you become. Soon your default shifts. You stop living reactive. You start living anchored. Anchored in truth. Anchored in presence. Anchored in peace. You can't always control what thoughts come into your mind, but you can control which ones you invite to stay. Choose the ones rooted in gratitude. They'll lead you back to clarity, to hope, and to the strength that was always within you. Expanded. Resilience is built through repetition, not inspiration. Inspiration is powerful, but it is fleeting. It moves you in a moment, makes your heart race, gives you goosebumps. You hear a message, read a quote, or watch a video that stirs something inside you, and for a moment, you believe you can conquer anything. But what happens the next day, when the alarm clock rings at 5 a.m., when the motivation is gone, when your body is tired and your emotions are silent? That is the moment where resilience is born. Not in the thrill of inspiration, but in the quiet repetition of choosing to keep going again and again and again. Most people confuse resilience with excitement. They think resilience means always feeling fired up, always having energy, always being pumped to chase the dream. But true resilience is rarely loud. It's the person who wakes up and does the work when no one is clapping. It's the one who gets up after falling down, not once, but 10 times. It's the unseen, uncelebrated repetitions that shape champions. A single motivational moment won't carry you through a lifetime of challenges. That's why some people start strong, but burn out quickly. They relied on a spark when they should have built a fire. And fires don't start by accident. They take time, kindling, attention, and consistency. The gym goer who builds a strong body doesn't do it through a single intense workout, but through months, even years of showing up, lifting, resting, repeating. The writer who finishes a book doesn't do it in one creative burst, but through daily discipline, writing when it's hard, rewriting when it's bad, pushing forward when it's boring. The same is true for emotional and spiritual strength. You don't become resilient because of one good sermon or one emotional high. You become resilient because you practice strength and weakness daily. Repetition is unglamorous, it's mundane, it often feels boring, but it's in that boredom that your foundation is forged. You build muscles, physical, emotional, spiritual, by choosing repetition over escape. You build stamina by refusing to quit. You don't need to be inspired every day, you need to be committed. So ask yourself this: what are you repeating today? Complaints or courage? Excuses or effort? Fear or faith? Because whatever you repeat, you reinforce, and whatever you reinforce becomes your reality. Inspiration is the spark, but repetition is the engine. And if you want to go the distance in life, you must master the art of showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. That's where real growth happens. That's where character is formed. That's where your inner strength is no longer a theory. It becomes your truth. So stop waiting to feel inspired. Show up. Repeat. Trust the process. That's how resilience is built. Not in a flash of lightning, but in every quiet decision to rise again. Consistent gratitude transforms seasons of waiting. There is a hidden power in your waiting season, one that most people miss because they're too focused on what hasn't happened yet. But when you choose consistent gratitude in the midst of delay, something miraculous begins to unfold. Waiting becomes no longer wasted time. It becomes holy ground. And gratitude is the shovel that turns that ground and makes it fertile for breakthrough. Gratitude is not a response to blessings. It's a weapon that attracts them. It shifts your atmosphere, your attitude, and your awareness. When you begin to thank God, not just for what He's done, but for what He's going to do, even when there's no sign of it yet, you open a portal of faith in your heart. That kind of gratitude isn't shallow. It's not a polite thank you. It's a declaration of trust, a bold proclamation that even in the absence of answers, you believe there's a purpose in the process. The truth is, waiting without gratitude leads to anxiety, bitterness, and impatience. But waiting with gratitude leads to maturity, peace, and spiritual strength. You become rooted, stable, unshaken. Because your thankfulness doesn't come from circumstances, it comes from a deep conviction that God is still working behind the scenes. Consistent gratitude changes your perspective before your position changes. And that's the secret. Many people want the position to shift before they praise. But those who live a life of consistent breakthrough know the real key. You praise before the walls fall. You give thanks before the door opens. You celebrate before the chains break. This is what gives you strength in the wait. Because gratitude is a daily reminder that even if the harvest hasn't arrived, the soil is still good. That even if you haven't seen the miracle, the God of miracles hasn't changed. Gratitude keeps your heart soft, your spirit open, and your hope alive. Sometimes the delay is not to punish you, it's to prepare you. And gratitude is the test. Will you still be thankful when there's no spotlight, when there's no applause, when the answer is not yet? If you can pass that test, you're ready for the next season. Because the promotion isn't just about what's next, it's about who you've become while waiting. So speak gratitude, live gratitude, even in the silence, even in the uncertainty. Thank God, not just for the destination, but for the detours that are developing something deeper in you. Because one day, you'll realize the wait wasn't the enemy, it was the womb. And your gratitude was the heartbeat that kept the promise alive. You can't control the storm, but you can anchor your soul. Life will bring storms, unexpected, uninvited, and unrelenting. Storms that shake your plans, test your patience, and stretch your faith. But here's the truth. You were never meant to control the storm. You were meant to anchor your soul. Too many people try to fight the storm with force, with panic, with desperation. They think if they just try hard enough, they can stop the wind, calm the waves, and silence the thunder. But the storm was never under your authority. It was never yours to manage. What is yours is the anchor. The anchor is your mindset. The anchor is your belief. The anchor is your faith. When your soul is anchored, the storm doesn't get to decide your direction. The storm doesn't get to tell you who you are. It may shake your surroundings, but it cannot shake your identity. Anchoring your soul means choosing stability on the inside even when there's chaos on the outside. Think of a ship tossed in violent waters. It may rock and sway. It may creak and groan. But if the anchor is deep and secure, it won't drift away. In the same way, when your values are clear, when your hope is rooted, and when your peace is grounded in something higher than circumstance, you may bend, but you will not break. Anchoring your soul means choosing trust over control. It means releasing your grip on the outcome and grabbing hold of unshakable truth that you are not alone in the storm, that there is purpose in what you can't see, that growth is happening even when progress is invisible. Here's the paradox. It's often in the fiercest storms that we find the strongest anchors. You won't discover how deep your roots go until the wind tests them. You won't know the power of your peace until the waves try to drown it. But every storm you survive deepens your character and strengthens your resolve. Anchoring your soul is not about denial. It's about discipline. You feel the fear, but still choose faith. You hear the chaos, but still speak calm. You see the uncertainty, but still move forward with courage. That's what makes you resilient. Not that storms don't come, but that they don't consume you. And remember this, every storm has an expiration date, but your anchor, that lasts forever. Your soul was not built to drift aimlessly. It was created to endure. So let the storm do what storms do, but you stand firm. Let your hope hold fast. Let your soul stay rooted, because the winds will pass, the clouds will clear, and the sun will rise again. And when it does, you'll look back and realize the storm didn't break you, it built you. And the anchor you planted in pain became the foundation of your peace. When you focus on progress, not perfection, you win every day. Perfection is a moving target. It whispers lies like, you're not enough yet, you should be farther along, you can't celebrate until everything is flawless. But the truth is this, perfection is the enemy of growth. And those who wait for perfect conditions often stay stuck forever. Progress is the real victory. If you took one step forward today, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, you already won. You broke the cycle, you changed your story. You did what yesterday's version of you might have avoided. That's not small. That's not insignificant. That's powerful. The world may not clap for your baby steps. People might not notice the little changes you're making. But heaven does. Your destiny does. Every inch forward is a threat to the darkness that once held you back. We often rob ourselves of joy because we're chasing an ideal that doesn't exist. Perfection is a myth built by fear. It tells you that you're disqualified because you're messy, because you fall, because you have to try again. But what if the journey was never about flawless execution, but about faithful progression? Look around. Trees don't grow overnight. Mountains aren't built in moments. The moon waxes and wanes. Everything of value honors the process. So should you. Progress means embracing your humanness and still moving forward. It means you forgive quicker, love deeper, learn faster. It means you wake up tomorrow a little wiser than you were yesterday. That's what winning looks like. Not perfection, but evolution. Some days you'll feel like you're running, others like you're crawling. But forward is forward. Don't despise small beginnings. They are the seeds of greatness. Think about this. When a child learns to walk, every stumble is celebrated. No one criticizes the fall. They cheer the effort. Why don't we do the same for ourselves? Why do we judge our growth when we're in the middle of becoming? You are not behind. You are not failing. You are in the middle of the process. And as long as you stay in the process, the promise is alive. Your only job is to keep showing up, to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Perfection wants performance. Progress wants participation. God doesn't ask you to be perfect. He asks you to be present in your journey, in your purpose, in your healing. So breathe, let go of the pressure, cancel the comparison, and say this to yourself, I'm not perfect, but I'm further than I was. I'm not finished, but I'm growing. And that's enough today. Because when you choose progress over perfection, you learn to celebrate life, not criticize it. You learn to love yourself in the process, not only at the finish line. And that shift, that's what turns ordinary days into extraordinary victories. So don't aim to be perfect. Aim to be present, purposeful, and progressing. That's how you win every single day. 12, obedience in the small unlocks breakthrough in the big. It's not the loud moments that shape destiny. It's the quiet ones, the unseen, the uncelebrated, the small faithful acts that no one else notices, but heaven records. And in those moments, a divine principle unfolds. When you are obedient in the small, God releases breakthrough in the big. You want the mountain to move? Start by being faithful with a stone in your hand. In the scriptures, we see this clearly. Before David defeated Goliath, he learned obedience tending sheep. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he honored God in the prison. Before Esther saved a nation, she obeyed in silence behind palace doors. None of them began with greatness. They began with obedience in obscurity. The enemy wants you to despise the small tasks, the mundane duties, the daily disciplines. But what you do in private shapes who you become in public. Every time you say yes to the little things, praying when no one sees, forgiving when it hurts, showing up when you're tired, you're building a life that's unshakable. God tests the heart through the small. If he can trust you with minutes, he'll entrust you with decades. If he can trust you with a word, he'll give you influence. If he can trust you in a hidden place, he will elevate you in due time. Don't wait for the spotlight to shine before you act in faith. Breakthrough rarely starts with lightning. It starts with obedience. And the miracle you're praying for may not need a dramatic change. It may just need a faithful step. You don't need the full plan, just obey the last thing you were told. You don't need a stage, just be faithful where your feet are. Stop asking when your moment will come and start mastering the moment you're in. Here's the truth. Obedience precedes overflow. Heaven responds to movement. Your yes, your surrender, your humility, they are all keys to unlocking favor and destiny. Sometimes the enemy won't tempt you with rebellion. He'll tempt you with delay. He'll tell you that small things don't matter. But obedience is never small in God's economy. The ordinary is the training ground for the extraordinary. Your consistency in the unseen places is what causes chains to break in the open places. It's not about impressing people. It's about honoring purpose. And purpose is activated when obedience becomes your lifestyle. So today, don't overlook the small tasks. Don't ignore the gentle nudges. Don't delay the tug on your spirit. When you obey in the small, you position yourself for the supernatural. Remember, every seed of obedience carries a harvest. What you do today is not wasted. It's sowing for tomorrow's breakthrough. Say yes. Stay faithful. Walk humbly. The floodgates don't open for those chasing perfection. They open for those who obey, step by step. Conclusion. Seasons of waiting are not seasons of punishment. They are seasons of preparation. They are heaven's training grounds where faith is forged, endurance is tested, and identity is refined. If you've ever walked through silence, delay, or hiddenness, understand this. God was never absent. He was deeply at work beneath the surface. You were not being delayed, you were being developed. Every moment you held on in faith, even when nothing changed, became a declaration in the spirit realm that your trust was not based on comfort but on covenant. The tears you cried weren't wasted, they watered the soil for a future harvest. The prayers you whispered when you were exhausted became the soundtrack of your resilience. And the obedience you walked in when no one was watching opened doors that no man can shut. Now hear this clearly, your season of waiting was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. Don't measure progress by what's visible. Heaven operates in dimensions far beyond sight. The answers are on the way. The breakthrough is already being orchestrated. But more importantly, you have changed. You're not who you were when you started. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are anchored in a deeper hope. The waiting was your wilderness, but now you're stepping into your promised land. And remember this always, God does not waste waiting. He transforms it. He sanctifies it. He turns it into a testimony that carries power and authority to help others rise too. So, rise, step forward, and walk boldly into what God has prepared for you, because this is not just the end of a delay. It is the beginning of a divine unveiling. Thank you for walking through this message with an open heart. Whether you're in a season of waiting, in the middle of a breakthrough, or walking into something new, I honor your faith, your endurance, and your hunger for truth. Remember, you are never alone. Every silent season was heard in heaven. Every tear you cried was caught. Every prayer you whispered moved something in the unseen. Now may you walk forward in confidence. May you embrace your process, knowing it was never meant to punish, but to position you for power, purpose, and promise. And may you never again mistake silence for absence or waiting for abandonment. God is with you, He's for you, and the best is still ahead. Thank you, and stay faithful.